Oh, look, it's another edition of There's Someone Available for Trade. Should the Green Bay Packers trade for them? No. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and my DMs have been quite full of late with a repetitive question about one O.J. Howard. Now, O.J. Howard, of course, the talented tight end from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who has Jameis Winston throwing to him. May God have mercy on his soul. But I feel like we needed to talk about him just a smidge, because there's some arguments out there of like, hey, maybe we could use a weapon at tight end, because Jimmy Graham is Jimmy Graham in it, Mercedes Lewis, and the few opportunities he's been given, he's been good, but he's more of a blocking tight end. Big Bob Tonyan, he's injured right now, and of course, Jay Sternberger is also injured, he's going to be coming off IR. Oh wait, that's 4 tight ends that I just listed. So the answer should already be no, there shouldn't even be an episode about this, but I'm doing it because you won't stop messaging me about it. So let's talk about O.J. Howard. So, drafted in the first round of the 2017 NFL Draft, number 19 overall. And in 2017, he started 14 games, had 39 targets, 26 receptions, and 432 yards for an impressive 6 touchdowns. And you're like, that sounds like first-rounder production there. Then in 2018, he played in 10 games, only started in 8, had 48 targets, 34 receptions, 565 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Not amazing, but still pretty darn sweet. And then so far in 2019, he's started and played all 6 games, has only had 18 targets, 13 receptions for 176 yards with a big old goose egg there for touchdowns. So right now, he's averaging about 3 targets a game. And there was stuff on the Twitters and saying, hey, maybe he could potentially get traded. And O.J. Howard went on Twitter and was like, I'm amazing. You should totally trade for me. There was rumors that the Patriots wanted to go out and get him, but then the Patriots were like, hey, Tampa, you having a fire sale? Can I buy from you real low and turn these guys into Super Bowl champions? Because that's what I do with every single person. And the Buccaneers were like, thanks, but no thanks. So they turned the Patriots down. So there's a part of me that the Buccaneers aren't even interested, because this guy's a first-round talent that we're only a few years into his career. And what kind of idiotic Floridian team would move on from a guy who's a former first-rounder in just a couple of years? Minkah Fitzpatrick? Dolphins? Anyway, with that being said, the Green Bay Packers come up and they say, hey, potentially, there's a guy who has a lot of potential, a lot of talent, not being utilized well in Tampa. If we could get him for a good price, would it be worth him coming over on the Packers? Now, Jimmy Graham. The answer's no. It's a resounding no. Just no's across the board. But let me explain the logic here. So you have Jimmy Graham, right? Jimmy Graham, who I'm pretty sure is still the highest paid tight end in the NFL. That didn't work out, but again, also shows the dangers of free agency. It doesn't always work out like it is with Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith and Amos. But Jimmy Graham, we could get rid of him next year. He technically has another year left on his contract, but most likely he's not going to make that, unless his production starts shooting up. Had a good game against the Raiders, right? Had a couple targets, also had a touchdown, so that was nice. But Jimmy Graham is being massively overpaid for the production that he's putting out on the field. So I can see why Jimmy Graham is eventually, he's not the future. He's going to eventually ride off into the sunset where another team can overpay him or what have you. Then you have Mercedes Lewis, who again is up there in years, but guy's looking real jacked, and again, he's made some clutch plays this season, but again, he's not being targeted a whole lot. He really helps us in the blocking game, and so you want a guy who could be a red zone threat, who could be basically like another receiver. Then you have Big Bob Tonyan, right? Robert Tonyan, who got that big touchdown against Seattle last year. Really didn't do a whole lot, though. And then this year, he's been injured. And so he's been out the past 3 games. He's got an injury. So we don't really know what we have in Tonyan yet. And then we have Jay Sternberger, who we just spent a 3rd-round pick on in this past 2019 draft. Because everybody and their mother was saying, including myself, we need a tight end. Great. We went out and drafted a tight end. We have not seen him take the field yet. So why are we going out and getting a tight end when we potentially have a tight end that we just spent a 3rd rounder on when we don't know what we got? That kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And so I understand the allure of, ooh, we get a shiny new toy to play with and for Aaron Rodgers to throw to, but we might have that shiny new toy. He's just at the bottom of the toy box right now. And guess what? We gotta wait until we are able to go out and get him. And that analogy is probably terrible, but we have Jay Sternberger. We have no idea what kind of player we have. We drafted him for a reason. He looked pretty darn good coming out of college. He's probably gonna take a season, God forbid, or maybe even 2 to develop into a threat as tight end. But with all that being said, this is like a luxury. I don't say we have a need for tight end yet, because right now we have 4 of them on the team. That's quattro. Why are we going to bring in 5? And who are you going to cut? You're going to cut Tonyan? Okay, then there goes that potential. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, because then what the hell do you do with Jay Sternberger? You're going to run 2 tight end sets all the time? Are you going to have like 2 guys that you're eventually going to have to pay big money to? Because he was just a 1st rounder a few years ago. They're going to ask for a bunch. If Mohamed Sanu is commanding a 2nd round pick, don't you think that O.J. Howard, the Bucs aren't just going to let him go for cheap? And so for me, this makes little to no sense. I don't want O.J. Howard. I'm sure he's a very talented guy. I'm sure he's a very nice man. I just don't need him on the Packers. If you're talking about trading for somebody, if anything, it's going to be a wide receiver, maybe an inside linebacker. It ain't going to be for this. No, we don't need a tight end right now. Let's work with what we have. And then who knows, maybe next year or maybe in 2 years we'll be like, okay, we'll reassess. We'll see what we have in Jay Sternberger, and then we'll start talking about potentially getting another tight end. So right now, we can't get the shiny new toy, put him back on the shelf. Gotta have some patience, all right? Papa ain't buying no new toys right now, okay? Money's tight. And plus, I gotta spend it on someone else that I like more than you. That might be a receiver. Man, we're just getting lost in the weeds with analogies today. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do we need O.J. Howard? Do we have a need for tight end? Let me know. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy on all social media. See down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course the YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the Patreon members over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. Thank you. But thank you so much for watching. I'm probably going to release a video or 2 on Saturday, because, you know, why not? But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.